Father, we thank you for this evening. We thank you for your mercy, not giving us what we deserve, and for your grace, giving us what we don't deserve. May we live in your grace and walk in your mercy. Help us tonight in our meeting. Be with each council member and our mayor and everybody who's here, and bless their lives. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Package you have the minutes of the February 19th meeting. Motion to approve. So moved.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Committee reports. Finance.
I don't have anything tonight.
Human resources.
We're good right now.
Police.
We did just have a meeting, yeah, but I don't have anything for the public at this time.
Street.
Yes. I'd like to have a closed meeting afterwards if we could. We need to discuss some of the issues with the St. Francis Street project. We've found out we've run into some troubles and time limits and paperwork, things like that. We actually got a call from the Department of Economic Development, and they suggested that we not continue the project and that we wait and refile later on. The criteria, they'll be down investigating and inspecting and all that, so we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing with this. So we'll talk about that further. We also have, just want to let you know that we're going to be meeting, the street department will be meeting pretty quick, street committee, to discuss what streets we're going to be working on this next year during the construction season. Also, Randy, I have a request to put a dead-end street sign on the street, and I'll get with you afterwards on that. We did have our stormwater meeting the other night. I'm going to go ahead and skip into that if that's okay.
Sure.
And one of our issues with that meeting was the 2 retention ponds that the city has, and some use to the ponds that they were not designed to do. And but the good thing is that the water was gone in just a little over an hour after we had that big rain. So pretty happy with that. So we're doing some things correctly. I think that'll do it for tonight.
Thank you, sir.
Departmentals. Art.
What I gave you there a few minutes ago was the end of the year totals for 2018. And if you look at it on the left, they'll say current month, that's December at the end of the year there, totals. And then you kind of compare it to the right. There was a total of 972 calls for the year. We were down approximately 70, 80 calls from last year, which we went through and we kind of went through on some of the medicals and did a little bit of tweaking on what we should go to, what we probably shouldn't really need to go to. And we're continuing to monitor that as we go along. In other departments, we've had a rash of, just to kind of keep you abreast, we've had a rash, I guess, bed bug infestation throughout the city. Right around, see a lot of mattresses, box springs, sat down front yards. They don't pick them up through normal trash service. So, I don't know what the city wants to do. If it's a cleanup project we want to do, citywide cleanup, we might concentrate on that effort. There's a lot of couches, people have set them out there for the same reason. But you can ride all through the city, and when you see them, and you talk to them, that's generally what it amounts to. We even had some try and burn them in their backyards, and we've been having to squash that. A lot of it tends to occur after daylight hours. The other thing we talked about last meeting was the Department of Agricultural spay and neuter grant program. I'll tell you, this time I chose not to apply for it for certain reasons. The big reason is you have to have a veterinarian service to be willing to sign off on it. And at this time, there's still discussion. When you look at it, the Department of Agriculture wants them to do it at a reduced rate. And in talking with one veterinarian, it's, you know, he has customers to service. And if you're going to look at a target of 50 to say 75 upwards to 100 animals, it's bumping his customers out of onto a standby or whatever in order to do something at a reduced rate. We don't even have a target audience, so what I would do before we do this is we need to probably run some kind of survey that would show a target audience. Because most people that have a pet of some sort that take care of have either went and already had them spayed or neutered and taken care of. Right now, it's not costing the city any money to do the spay and neutering, because when you adopt a dog, that's part of your responsibility and requirement by the Department of Ag, is that you have to have it neutered or spayed before it gets out of town. So therefore, you have to go contact your local vet, make an appointment, don't drop off, you pay the bill, then paperwork's done, and the animal is yours. Whereas on the rescues, we're not adopting them out, so they take the rescues, and when they pass them off to the rescue mission, wherever they take them, they're responsible for doing the spay and neutering. I know we have a lot of dogs that still run around that probably would be nice to neuter or spay, but at this point in time, even though you have to have a vet sign off on it, he's getting the funds. Our people, which we're down to 2 right now, would be burdened with tracking that animal and the care of it afterwards. So while we're not going to directly receive any monetary value, other than, yeah, it possibly could reduce in the long run the number of strays, it could be a burden on it. So what I want to do is, this is an annual grant, to look at it, to see what we can do, to maybe look at it. I've done many a grants before, and there's a number even in the fireside that I passed up. Back when, a couple mayors ago, we looked at a fire station grant, and it was free money. But by the time you got done building it, it would cost you more in the long run for the maintenance of it because of what you had to do. So we abandoned it. So what I'd say is, just because there's a grant out there doesn't always mean it's worth seeking, because there's always some types of strings attached to them, and you've got to be willing to handle those strings, and is it worth your time and effort? But this could be, and I'm not saying it isn't, I'm just saying right now we have to work with our local veterinarians and get with them again. We can't go outside the state to do it, so it knocked out one vet that we could have possibly used outside of Kennett or outside of Missouri. But, you know, we just need to see what the target audience is and possibly how many people would be interested in it, and if someone's willing to do it at reduced cost. So that's my findings on it, and it's not a closed case. It's just right now I think we need to do a few things before we apply for this grant, and make sure that it's going to be worth our while. Any questions?
Yeah, did you speak of both? Well, we got 2 vets in town.
Yes.
Did you speak of both of them?
Yes.
They were both.
Both of them got this packet right here.
And both of them were.
Yes and no. I talked to one vet directly, the other one, I talked to his assistant, and they were to get back, and I haven't heard anything back yet, and I will revisit them. I think they're doing most of their surgeries out of town, through their office, and, like I said, you know, there were some questions that some of them had that, I wanna make sure that we're on track if we're gonna apply for the grant, before people start, you know, if you ask for, say, 50 dogs, that's 50 days, and it's 2 hours, even if it's an hour, it's a whole, more than a week's worth of surgeries that a local vet has to perform, and take away from his other work. And I think the one vet in town, his assistant, he doesn't have an assistant like he did before, so he's pretty full with his clientele right now. From what I was told, he's a month ahead, he's booked solid. So probably a good prime area for another vet. No questions?
Thank you,
Thank you
John.
for this.
Bruce?
Okay. We had our committee meeting a little while ago, and we discussed, first thing we discussed is the extra funds we're gonna need. I don't know if a lot of you know yet or not, but Tony Martin Blankenship has resigned from the Kent Police Department. So it leaves us 4 officers short. What I would like to do under our academy program is to send 2 officers at a time instead of 1. We already had the 1 approved. Well, all this expense will not come out until next fiscal year, so it kind of gives a plan, but just commitment from the council saying that yes, it's okay to do this, so I can get another guy lined up and through the application process. But that cost will be added in when we do our budget, just kind of keep everybody up to date with where we're at. I don't need any approval tonight on that, I don't think. Okay. The next thing is our ref court agreement is due, which is our voice recording system for the telephones and radios. When we switch from New Wave to Big River, Big River phone system does not match up to our voice recording system, so we have to do some upgrades. It's a yearly agreement that went from $3,000 a year to $3,643, $643 increase. I just need approval from the council for me to go ahead and sign this agreement and get it going. You don't need a motion on that.
Motion.
Second.
Motion second.
It's something we'll have to do every year. So,
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
next thing on the agenda for us is Kent Housing Authority. We got this is approval for 1 officer. The other 2 will come up in June or July. This is the renewal to keep pay for Sergeant Caldwell's salary. He's over housing right now. This is just a yearly agreement. What I'll need is for the mayor, the city clerk, and also the chief of police to sign it. I'll need a motion from the council to accept the funds.
Motion. Second.
Motion second. All in favor, say aye.
I want 3 original signatures on these copies, and then we'll do it all. Okay, also, I told you a little bit ago, Officer Blankenship did resign. He's been our dare officer for probably the last 20 years, probably, close to it. I want the council and the community to understand that we are still very committed to the DARE program. We're talking to officers now, we've got some interest from within our department that wants to continue this. So over the next several months, we'll line up an officer to go to training and keep that program going for the next school year. The training doesn't start until September, it's for 2 weeks, but we got plenty of time to work all that out. But main thing is, I want the community and the school system to understand we are still committed to that program. It's been very good for our students. And the last thing, got on a sad note, K9 Midas was put to sleep back on February 22nd, 2019. A big part of our department for 5 years, and then obviously Sergeant Dennis took him into with his family, and kind of big part of his household, so it's kind of a sad day for the Kent Police Department also for Sergeant Dennis's family. So, and that's really all I have for the council. If anybody has any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
department will be real short tonight. We're currently 2 employees short, but we've got interviews tomorrow. See how that works out, we're possibly doing that. And we've been trying to grade the gravel roads around the rains and so forth, but this type of weather is really hard on them, so we're out there trying on that. Switch to stormwater now, and a lot of these, both street and stormwater. The first thing I'd like to say is that at the end of February, Victor got our stormwater report sent off, stayed on time, which was an annual requirement. And I know most of you all understand it and you hear about it and everything like that, but this is a copy of our annual report if anybody'd like to read it.
Can you email that to me?
Possibly, I don't know. I don't know if it's all like that, because a lot of copy pages are just copy. But that's done for another year. There's a lot of time there doing that, and Victor deserves a pat on the back for compiling all that data and getting it ready. It took him about 3 weeks of just compiling it, putting it in the right forms, and making copies of all the paperwork that went in it, but it literally took close to that.
How does that compare to last year's report?
Last year's was probably about that too. We're still out of compliance. We're hoping that this brings us, that they'll see that and bring us back into compliance. To stay in compliance, though, we have things we gotta do this year, and that means doing a couple of new ordinances, which when we get those done, we'll give them to Terry, and they'll come to you all, of course, but then the work starts back on us again, because there'll be plans to review, permits to issue, inspections to make, pre-construction inspections, during the construction, and then post-construction will all take place on that. So we're looking at maybe adding 30% to 50% more to that next year. We're trying our best to try to get you in compliance. 3rd Street, the pipes are all in, connected. That's the good news, and something we thought wasn't working for. The downside of that is where we connected at both ends, where we connected on Anthony at the beginning, the pipes are in bad shape. In fact, they had to go about 8 to 10 feet farther north than what we had anticipated in order to find a good pipe to connect to. On the east end, just past Randall, we stopped where we needed to, but showed the Stormwater Committee some pictures last night where it's not completely rusted out, but there are holes in the bottom of the pipes down through there. So we're hoping that we get another, say, 3 years or so on the east end. We don't know about the north end, so we'll just have to play that by ear, but at least we've got that through there. The contractor started cleaning up some today, dressing up. We've got 2 storm drains, the inlet boxes that have to be raised a little bit after we got the whole intersection put back together. But we gotta have good weather, normal weather to do that. But we're on the final stretches on that. The Robertson Company spent all day today with 4 trucks, all in that are cleaning the dirt out of the dig down to the compost and stockpile down there that will be used to extend the west side of the Pistol Range. There's a barrier between that and where the people unload limbs at the compost. It's just too wet, couldn't get out there on it. So, but they did do that for us today. We've got a nice pile of dirt down there. Then our crew, the city crew, worked yesterday and today on Anthony, taking out the remaining concrete and putting it down to rough grade. Desmond Brothers are supposed to be here tomorrow. We're hoping we can pour all of it, or at least part of it Thursday to beat the rain and stuff, so that's progressing. We won't start on hopper until that concrete's done and cured and ready to drive on, and we'll move to the next intersection. Barney Volkswagen grant, like I told you last time, we weren't funded in the first round. There weren't very many places funded. We've got another email since the last council meeting, and we don't anticipate being funded. They're basing it on miles driven, and since Barney's been down so much and we haven't used it, their cost figure with the expense of the truck and our number of miles down was just way too high. We will continue to look at that and monitor it, but I don't really anticipate that we're going to get any funding out of that. The camera truck, got a call today, it's ready. We'll pick it up in the next 2 or 3 days, whatever it works out, go get it from St. Louis. DNR is offering a free pesticide collection at the University of Missouri Delta Center in Portageville this Saturday from 8 to 12. Why am I bringing that up here? How many of you have old flower chemicals, yard chemicals, sprays, all that type of stuff in your storage shed, in your garage, under your steps, or wherever? Addressing this from a stormwater issue, it's a free pickup. All you have to do is take it over there, and then they take it, no questions asked. We're seeing more and more of this in our groundwater samples. We're seeing more and more of it in our drinking water samples. So, you know, whatever we put out there, you know, there's a potential to come back around. So, just pass that on. I know the media's carried some information on that, but I just wanted to let people know that that is available free. Many of you know, driven across Buffalo Ditch, David Ross has started yesterday mowing from bypass on up. He's between Russell and Crawford right now, or was this afternoon late. He's only able to mow on one side in some places because of the privacy fences again. And in some places he's not going to be able to mow at all because in the past, because of houses and storage sheds and privacy fences, he's had to mow the bottom of the ditch, and that's impossible now with the water in there. So we'll get all we can get out of it. So, but you know, there is it's just like everything else. There is a right of way on each side of the ditch there. Creates problems for us on this.
Did you have the opportunity to do anything with the Pistol Range in terms of the grass? The grass that we were talking about?
Yeah, no, I did not.
Okay, so that'll be coming up shortly though. Also, the complaints that we were getting from the one neighborhood about the gravel and issues with those roads have turned into compliments. They're very happy with who's grading them and see that we're making the effort, and know it's not perfect with the rains and things like that, but they're very happy with those things. So we're doing our job.
The gentleman over there on Wilson Street, with that alleyway, is that what you're talking about? Did we get that taken
No,
care of?
no, this is a whole neighborhood.
Did we get that taken care of on Wilson or?
I don't know, it was the next day or
Okay, yeah, I mean, I haven't heard anything. I
Thursday
just-
right after that.
Thank you. Then I know what you're talking about.
Why don't you come forward, please?
Street equipment very long,
You can leave it there with me.
award.
This is quite lengthy. What we have from the Missouri House of Representatives is a resolution, if I can read all this. Whereas the members of the Missouri House of Representatives are proud to recognize the meritorious accomplishments of an outstanding Missouri public servant who has placed himself in harm's way on numerous occasions to ensure public safety, and Whereas Mark Goddard retired from his position as communications supervisor with the Kennett Police Department on December 31st, 2018. After 34 years of demonstrating extraordinary commitment to the citizens of the Shelby State, and whereas Mark Goddard is an extraordinary individual who chose to follow his dream and embrace a worthwhile vocational calling which provided means to express a deep sense of community, compassion for fellow Missourians, and a desire to protect citizens in and around the Kennett community. And whereas Mark Goddard commenced his career as a dispatcher with the Kennett Police Department in 1975, after working for several radio stations, and whereas Mark Goddard, during the rank of captain, served as supervisor of emergency medical services, 911 calls, police calls, fire calls, and weather emergency management. And whereas Mark Goddard is known, admired, and respected for his helpful attitude and friendly manner in which he has always greeted people in and around the community, a unique quality that will be greatly missed by many. Now therefore be resolved that we, the members of the Missouri House of Representatives, 100th General Assembly, join in expressing deep gratitude for the superb service that Mark Goddard has rendered to the Kennett Police Department during the past 3 decades, and in wishing him ample opportunity to continue being a weather spotter for many years to come. Be it further resolved that the Chief Clerk of the Missouri House of Representatives be instructed to prepare copies, a transcribed copy of this resolution for Mark Goddard. This is offered by Andrew McDaniel, Representative, District Number 150, approved by Elijah Haza, Speaker of the House of Representatives, 100th Assembly, First Legislation. We certify that the above is a true and correct copy of House Resolution Number 209, adopted January 24th, 2019.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah. Randy said 10 years of loafing.
Mark, and we've got a lot of other long service employees with the city that haven't retired yet, but one thing you can do, you can get old, you can replace people, but you can't replace their experience. A very valuable asset, and Mark hadn't been long, but we're already missing it, so thank you. This time we'll open the floor for public comments. Anyone like to address the council?
Good evening. The new website looks great. So you and Leslie have done a really good job with that, and a lot of good information. See, we're working on a few areas, but it's
Still a work
really
in
good.
progress.
Definitely a work in progress, but it looks really good. And I spoke with Mitzi Dell earlier today, and she was on the phone with DED earlier, and they didn't have anything negative aspect-wise, so I'm assuming I'm included in the closed session for the St. Francis Street.
Okay, that's right.
Let me ask a question. What are we going to be discussing in the closed session?
Should we continue the contract for this grant, or should we stop and restart later?
That ought to be open session.
All right.
She would like to be phoned in on that discussion, I'm sure that's what.
That's actually one of the issues even, is when she is, when the bids are coming in and being open, she's not to be involved in that in any manner. That's something between the city and the contractor. And so that's something that if they check into, we violated some of the issues there. The big thing is we have a description of the project, and on the description of the project it says that the sidewalk's going to be done on the north side, but yet the bids that we've been trying to get have included both sides, and that is that anytime you make a change in that, the planning stage, it has to be reported to them and they have to be made aware of it. And we checked and they said there's not been any notification of any changes in those plans. The fear right now that I have is that it's a 2-year project. They expect they expect it done in 2 years. You can get an extension for a 3rd year and possibly even a 4th year, but what they told us is the inspections will begin and you should be done in 2 years. So that's not going to be possible at this point. Now, I do not believe that, I don't want this to be the end of it. That doesn't mean that we're not going to continue. But we have enough of these little issues that if they choose to come down and push them, it leaves us in a situation where they could request their grant money back. And if they do that, then we're in bad shape. So,
I would think that Mitzi would know that whether or not she was supposed to be involved in the opening of the bids or not.
that's what we were told.
Just like she's been doing this for 25+ years.
But that's one of the things that they picked on us about.
But she's
So-
got no notification, no information at all.
Okay.
And so, I mean, I really think this issue probably needs to be tabled. And then,
We-
so that she can be here.
We can't table it. And the reason is that if we cancel this, then we're eligible for other grants as long as we get it done by the 15th. Now, the other grants would be like destruction of property that needs to be cleaned up.
So can I get her on the phone then now? And so she can, you know, do her, she's been part of this all along.
All right?
So cutting her out here right at the very last minute, you know, it's,
Would you be, could we?
It's not like we're cutting her out.
well,
I mean, you know.
yeah,
I mean,
but the aspect is that, you know, if that's one of the things, you know, that, and if that's something new, but, you know, Metz was there, she was there, she's the grant writer. So,
Well,
I mean, again, this is my first rodeo.
I don't have a problem with that. I don't know if you want to do that as a second meeting, or we continue on, let
Well, I mean,
other
it's gonna,
people
I
speak.
mean, it'll all ought to be discussed in open meeting.
Right,
So, I mean, we're in an open meeting now.
okay, so just keep it rolling. Let's go ahead, see what you can find out.
I've only got about a 3rd battery, wasn't planning on this, so.
Sure.
I'm planning on talking for that long.
Well, it's a 5S, so it's been around a little while. Yeah, so. It's going-
That's what I'm looking for right
I
now.
hope we won't be. No, Lindsay? Okay, I want to put you on speaker. All right, so we've got you on speaker, and Mr. Palmer's talking about if, you know, one of the things that we weren't in compliance with, that you were present at a bid opening. And that is an issue for the DED.
Because I wasn't present at the bid opening because of weather.
No, you,
No, that you were present.
even by phone. So that was one of their issues that they've got. Another issue is when we look at the funding approval form, that describes the project. The project describes severely damaged sidewalks along the north side of St. Francis will be replaced. But when we did our blueprint and the work with the engineer, it was sidewalks on both sides of the street.
That's because there's no sidewalks on the south side.
I know why it is, but that's not the way it's described in this. And I am told there are new people there, and they are going to be particularly picky on it. That was one of the issues there. One of the big problems, though, is we have a form from the Department of Economic Development that had to be read in the city council meeting, and every councilman needed to hear it, and that was done, it was never done in that manner. And so I'm concerned about that as well. We've got some signatures on it, but it never got read in the council meeting. And that seems to be a pretty significant issue to them as well.
Well, I can answer all those things for you. And it's very simple.
Okay?
Going back to the bid opening for the contractors and stuff, the engineers and administrators are always at the bid opening. Number one, that's never been an issue before. Because we have to like keep notes and everything to go over everything. So that's never been an issue, because I've never, in my 18 years, I've never heard of that. That's new. If that's even, you know, what they said, because I've never heard that before. That's never been an issue. On the, what was the second one that you mentioned?
On the sidewalk,
Oh, the sidewalks, yeah.
Mhm.
They use that description on the funding approval comes off of the engineer reports and the forms that are sent in. That's exactly how they described it from after reading the application. That's a summary of what they took from the application and the engineering report. So I have nothing to do with that.
I'm not,
As far as that concerned, that's something that the DED comes up with for their own filing system.
okay,
So I'm unsure what the problem about that is.
I'm not saying that
The
has,
needs assessment form, I wasn't at that meeting to do that form. All those forms were sent to the city clerk at the time, Ms. Diane. All those forms were sent at that time with instruction of what to do and how to do it and to get everything signed. Everything was signed, everything was done, and they were mailed back to me because I was unable to attend that meeting. So all that stuff was given to the city clerk at the time, which was not Miss Brenda, but the other city clerk, with instructions on what to do and how to do it. So if something wasn't done according to the instructions, I don't know what to tell you.
I am not saying that it is something that you did. What I'm concerned about is some of these things that didn't get done, whether they were our fault or whatever. I'm concerned that they'll come back on us and ask for that money back. So it's got nothing to
They
do
won't
with.
do that. They won't do that. Because see, all this stuff was in the preliminary stages before it got funded. So they go through a fine-tooth comb and go over all this stuff, and you all still got funded. And what they do is, after you all got funded, there was a letter that they sent to the city that explains all the different things, you know, what you all are expected to do, what, you know, everything has to be, how it has to be done. And then that's how or why they hire myself and hire an engineer to kind of guide you all through this, to make sure that everything's done, all the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted. As the program progresses or the project progresses, there is a monitoring. We call it an audit, but it's a monitoring where a representative that represents the area down in southeast Missouri, they will come down with myself and we do a meeting and we do a monitoring. And we go through all the files, all the paperwork, go through everything to make sure everything is done. If they have findings, kind of like an audit, if you have findings, they send you a letter, they tell you what they found, and, you know, for you to correct it or this or that. They're not going to ask for the money back unless something major happens. Like really bad that we don't even can comprehend. But these little things, like I said, these others have never been an issue or a problem before. And, you know, if you're concerned about it, we can definitely address them or, you know, do what we have to do. But the project's been funded, there hasn't been any issues or problems with anything. And this is the first I've ever heard of this. So, and I just spoke with representatives with DED today going over, you know, how we can get contractors and things to bid on the project and to get some, you know, find somebody to get something to get this done.
Well, I understand that. That makes perfect sense to me. But I'd still like to check into this a little further and see, you know, what these chances are. 'Cause I don't understand why they would tell us that if that was an issue. That's my concern.
Well, who exactly told you that? Because, I mean, like I said, there's only like a couple people at DED that's still there, that's been there for years, that know the program like the back of their hand, and then there's a lot of new people that we're trying to train and everything to get going.
That's the
I mean, like
issue.
I said, I've been doing this for 18 years, and a couple of these things I've never heard of before, so.
Well, let me,
Do you have the person's name that you spoke with?
no, I do not remember. I cannot remember the name. It was a newer person though. It was a newer.
Well, I can get you, if you want to, we can have a conference call, and like I can get a representative with DED, and we can sit out all on the phone together and go over this, and you can voice your concerns, and they can, describe everything and tell you everything, if that will help.
Well, I'll do that again. That will be fine with me.
Okay?
Because my big thing is I don't want to get into this project and then have to pay anything back. I mean, it's that simple. So I want to make sure we're 100% with this.
That's no problem. We can take care of that.
All right, and then, well, let's go that route then. Let's work on that. What do you think about, what do you believe is the case about if we have to go to a third or fourth year? What do you hear about that?
A third or fourth year?
Yeah, on the project, because we're already through the first year and we started our second year in January.
Yes, our second year starts this January. But if we can find a contractor and get that started, it won't be, I can't remember the exact amount of days that METS has in the report, but it won't be probably 4 or 5 months to get this project done. And if we are still struggling, they will help us. DED will work with the city to figure out what to do and how to address this. And if we cannot, we can request an extension if we need to get into the fourth year. I personally don't see that happening. I think that we will probably, find someone here in the next few months, and if we don't get it done this year, it'll definitely get done next year, in the spring of next year. And it all comes back to what the city would like to do. How, if we find someone, do you want to start this project this year, or do you want to do all the prep and wait and start it next year? It's strictly up to you, because it's your community. So, I don't think we're going to have any problem meeting the 3-year deadline. None at all.
One of the other concerns I have is in the paperwork it lists, it says that we do have the money set aside in a separate account. That is not the case. Will that be an issue for us?
No, because at the time when we submitted the application, that was the information that was given to me. So, but no, it won't be an issue, because like I said, you have 3, we've discussed this before, you have 3 years to get this project done. So if it's not sitting there right now, it just needs to be, or we need to get it, allocated or get it going. So by the time that this project is done, it will be sitting there so we can pay the contractor in those invoices.
Okay, well, my issue becomes that I don't know where that came from about having the money set aside, because this has always been something that was going to be done with the passage of these stormwater program. So that, I just
Well, I
want
don't
to
know
make
either.
sure.
Like I said, that's the information that I was given at the time. When I was compiling information and getting all the documents and everything for the application process, everything in there is all the information I was given. And so I just put it in the application form when we submitted it, and it got approved.
Well, and plus also on the money aspect, at the January meeting, you pulled METS and I aside and said that the money was there.
The money will be there.
So,
It was not there at the time, but it
Yeah,
will
but
be.
it will be
Yeah,
there.
It will be there.
That's the
Well,
concern.
Can we come up with a list of things that we need to do to stay in compliance and keep the project going?
Well, we need a list of questions that we have for them and have those questions answered. And I'll work on that, because I feel like it.
At this point in the project, this project is so early that we are in compliance up to a point, because we can't do anything else to continue. And I had a conversation earlier with Miss Brenda about that. I told her that whenever we signed contracts and papers, and I came by to pick them up from Miss Diane at the time, that I gave her files, and she made copies of everything then to keep to your files. And so everything that I get, you all have copies of, and everything that you all get, I will get copies of. And when the state sends letters and information, they'll send it to you and they'll copy me to keep a file. So I'm kind of the, the middle person to kind of watching everything to make sure that we stay in compliance and stay, that these contracts and everything are good to go. We do everything that we're required we're supposed to do.
All right, well, I'll give you, the short on the changes when changes are made. It says changes to the scope, magnitude, and location of the project activities require the completion of an ERR amendment and possibly the publishing of a new notice. Remember the
Yeah, that's your environmental. That's if your project changes.
It did.
No, that's talking about if your project, not those little parts. The environmental takes care of the area. If your project changes, like changes as in
Location?
that we're not doing, like we're going to be putting water lines in, if we're going to put sewer lines in, if we're going to put light poles, stuff like that in. Not the, the physical change, not the,
The scaling back of amount of material?
yeah, the value of the material and all that, that's not the changes they're talking about. They're talking the physical major changes. Like if we're not going to do sidewalks anymore, we decide that we're going to do, put a bunch of street light poles there and, put another street line there instead of sidewalks. That's what they're talking about, like big physical changes. Then I would have to do an amendment to the environmental to say, hey, we're going to put new water lines, we're going to put new street poles, we're going to put another street here, stuff like that. Not the materials and the supply. That's not the changes we're talking about.
So the fact that we changed from north side only on St. Francis to both sides is not an issue?
Right, that's not an issue at all.
All right.
Not at all. Because we're still in the scope of the project. We're still going to be putting in sidewalks. We're going to be, repairing pavement. We're going to be trying to put, drainage in. All that is the same. We can switch sides. We can move things around. We can make it smaller. If we make it bigger and expand out a little bit, we may need to relook at that. But other than that, it encompasses that everything from, all down St. Francis Street. So.
All right, so let's plan on, I'll kind of get our list of questions together and let's do a conference call like we talked about there. And let's meet with them and make sure that what we're doing is going to.
And what's the deal with the contractors? Because we can't afford it the way it sits.
Well, that's an issue. What about that? I understand we have to have at least 3 different contractors making bids on this, is that correct?
Now, that's saying, what they're saying about that is like for contractors, you can have, if any contractor is the least amount of contractors, we have to get them approved. If there's 3 and less, then we have to show our procurement efforts to this state, showing that we did try to procure a bunch of contractors in the area. We got less than 3. Then they will have to approve it, saying, okay, we see that you did try, we see you wasn't successful, but here you got one, so if that's the one you want, you can have. That's basically what it is. If it's 3 and under, you have to get approval from the state before you can enter a contract.
Right.
If we get more than 3, you don't need approval, but we still do background checks on everybody.
All right.
When are we having a street department committee meeting?
We've
Because we possibly need, if we're only getting one contractor bidding at $1 million plus dollars total cost.
We got none last time
Right.
because it was not a complete bid.
So I mean,
So how are we sitting on the revamping the blueprint, the project itself? We talked about revamping it with Met's involved on doing some of that.
I know that Metz is doing his part on revamping. I spoke with him earlier today, and he's doing his part. In the meantime, I have been working with DED the past day, talking to them, and we're trying to figure out if there's another way that we can do this to get contractors. Because we tried twice, and each time that we advertise, it's costing about $600. It costs to be about $600 each time we advertise and do all this stuff. So we're trying to figure out a different way. And they're looking at the state regulations and statutes to see if there's a different way that we can procure to find contractors to bid on this project.
All right.
So I'm still waiting. I called Miss Brenda earlier to tell her, to give her this update and let her know if I didn't hear anything before the meeting, this is where we're at, and as soon as I get information, that I will contact her with that.
All right,
But if you all want to, you can come up with some questions and stuff, and then let me know when you've got all your questions ready. Then I will get a hold of Miss Marcy, and her and I will get together, and we'll set up a time where we can call and do a conference call, and we can go over your questions, or I can take a copy up to her or whatnot, or I can answer them. Because I have all the manuals and the books and everything, because that's what I do. My job is to make sure, like I said, you all stay in compliance with all the rules and regs of this program.
would you check into what's the latest that we could have this conference call, and maybe we can tie it into a street department meeting also, and have everybody from the street department street committee there?
Yeah, I'll check with Marcy to see when the latest that they can stay in.
All right.
Stay in the office, and then her and I can take care of that.
Okay, if you would work on that then, and then I'll work on the questions that we have from this end, and then we'll go
Okay,
from
that
there.
sounds great.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you, I appreciate it.
Well, here, before you go, my one question on all this is, she's had several different times of question and answer. Why are we here at the end? And now you've got all these questions.
That's when we got the
The
phone call.
project's not moving forward for some reason.
My main question is, if it doesn't get below, what is it, 1,000,001, what,
$1,000,002.
the last bid we got? We're gonna have to, what are the revamping the blueprints, to
That's-
change it to make it a cheaper project?
Yes,
Okay,
we are. Change the,
because the way it sits, I don't think it'll go.
Yeah, if the first person that would have, the very first bid that we got, if he would have rebid the second time with the new numbers, he would have well been in our range.
Was he aware of that?
That I have no idea.
Who is that?
No, I don't think he knows about that.
Okay.
Because normally we don't disclose that stuff to the contractors and things, because this is a closed bid. They have these bid packets, and we open them at the meeting and, discuss them. So it's not disclosed until after the fact. And, but he didn't bid on the second part, so it was
Right.
never disclosed and never inquired about. But I know that there's some other contractors that inquired with Matt, and he's supposed to be talking to them. I know he's talked to a couple trying to get answers, but I'm gonna, like I said, I'm working with the state to make sure that we do everything correctly before we approach these contractors about possibly bidding again. So,
all right, well, then let's proceed like we're talking about. The big changes on the contract or on the project, if I recall, were changing the cement from a wire form to a stronger form with fiberglass or
Fiberglass.
something. And that was, we felt like it was gonna change it, save us as much as, yeah, but anyway, we'll see what kind of changes we've got. Try to hook this up in terms of the street committee to be there at the same time, then we go from there.
So do you have an idea on when? I'm leaving for Chicago at 7:30 tomorrow morning, so if you're having it this week, I'm out of luck.
First of the week, so we can she has a chance to talk to
Okay.
people, we've got a chance to get the questions together and all that stuff. So let's look
yeah,
at
as
first
soon
of
as you
the
don't get the questions together, let me know. I'll in the meantime find out how late that we can do a
Great.
conference call.
Great.
And then we'll just get together. So we're thinking at least a week or two?
No, just a week,
Okay.
week
sounds
at the
good.
max. All right. Anybody have any other questions on that? Are you okay on that for right now? So it's still, we just need to research and find out a little bit more. Just to make sure we're all good on it. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Betsy.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bill, that revamped blueprint B ready for the committee meeting?
It's already ready.
Yeah, it was ready last time.
What's the estimate, do we have an estimated cost on it?
No, the only bid we got was a company that
I mean on the revamped.
was on the revamp.
Yeah.
And the only bid we got was on, it didn't have anything to do with the drainage, it was just on the concrete. And it was 900,000 right in that area. So, right?
No, I've got it out in the truck.
Say something.
Hey,
Yeah.
High eights.
Right close
And
to,
it wasn't a complete bid.
yeah, incomplete bid, and it was close to 900,000.
Yeah.
But you gotta remember, our
It wasn't
original
a
estimates
blind
on
bid.
this We had one original estimate of $750, one for $860, and that was just construction. That didn't include Metz and Mitzi's fees and all that. So if you add that in, you know, even if you went with the higher estimate that we had at $860, you add in the 110, 120 on the fees and all, well, that puts us right there at, you know, $980.
But you're talking estimates. and
Yeah,
not
those are all,
bids.
yes, and that's what,
That's a
you know,
lot
in the
different.
beginning, there was a lot of difference in questions on the estimates versus today's bids, on where the numbers came from. So, so the original estimates were just the construction, it did not include, so when we're looking at the lower bid of $750 was our low estimate. Then whenever you add in all the other fees, so it's still, looking at the total aspect. But again, it's, right now, the hard part is, you know, for some reason, contractors don't want to come to Kennett for an $800,000 job. You know,
So
So tell me why.
that's why we're trying to change the project.
And we'll talk about that in the committee meeting.
Mhm.
All right.
One question I've got, is Metz doing a third set of plans or just did two?
Just two. and
That's what I
check
was
into
getting at. Is there a third set?
No, it's just the
A
second
new
set.
revamp to make this cheaper?
No, we're trying to get word out to contractors in a different manner to try to get more people to bid on it. That's what we view as the biggest problem for some reason. People haven't heard that we have this project. Not enough people have anyway,
Yeah,
right?
so if you've got a friend that does concrete construction, you know,
Let him know.
let him know and let him contact Metz and get set of the plans so we can go for it.
$1 million raise.
I mean, it's like, go get you a backhoe and a couple trowels and everything else. I don't know what all goes into concrete.
I'll learn from $1 million.
Oh, yeah.
That's all I got.
That last bid was $892,609,
$890.
$892,609.
That was an incomplete bid.
That was an incomplete bid. It's not
Yes.
So
compliant.
it'd been $1,020,000.
Right.
Administrative costs, so this is still over $1 million.
Over money, right. So we're working to get it changed though.
But I mean, this project's been going on since 1947, I think, from that one city council.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's, I brought in I think Barry Jarrett brought in a newspaper article to me at the office, and I brought it up here and gave you guys the original, didn't realize that until later. Yeah, I think it was October of '47, city council discussed what to do with the shoulders in St. Francis Street. So if you, so if you think 3rd Street was out for a while,
Where's the dirt?
so yeah.
The big thing with this is we just want to make sure that we complete this project, and when we do not have somebody say, you violated this, whatever, and then we need our money back, and that's what we're going to be working on. That's what this is all about.
So, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Play the fireball.
Yeah.
Anyone else would like to address the council? Council, do you have anything you need to bring up?
I'm good.
All right.
I think I've taken enough.
So we don't need to close the meeting.
No.
We're done.
Were you